Hello, Star Wars fans. Hey, there's still just 340 days until Christmas 2022. Oh, this morning we did our live watch party of the Book of Boba Fett, and I think we'll open up with a brief discussion about that. But we're here to talk about Thrawn Trilogy. And I've got several of my friends gathered together, and we're going to be talking about spoilers. So if you have not finished the Thrawn Ascendency and you're working on it, I saw Sheev, you're working on it. If you're not all the way through there, then we'll be talking spoilers. You may not want to watch this live. You may want to come back later. If you've not read the Ascendancy and you're curious what it's all about and you don't plan to read it, then hang on with us. We'll talk about the Thrawn Ascendancy novels. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it with our friends. So let me introduce everyone. If you've not met them, I'm going to first bring in Gray. Gray, good friend since the very beginning of my channel. Thank you so much for being here. And Gray and I have been friends since before this channel existed. Going way back, and I absolutely love and adore her. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to the discussion.
Of course.
Now, the last time I talked, you were starting some work, maybe in Twitch or other things. Do you have any kind of social stuff
I'm
going
on TikTok. Donna the Gray on TikTok.
Donna the Gray on TikTok. Yep. Well, I will get that link and I'll put it into the description. The rest of the folks, I do have their YouTube links, so I do want to put that in. And what do you do on Donna the Gray?
I do a lot of Star Wars discussion. Sometimes I'll throw something else if I'm interested in it, like the Lost in Space series on Netflix or something. I don't do breakdowns or anything, just my opinion and maybe some cosplay stuff and some funny stuff.
Excellent.
But it's Star Wars. It's Star Wars based.
Awesome. Next, we're going to bring in Coop from Certified Gumbo. Coop, another passionate Thrawn fan. Somebody we love hanging out and talking about Thrawn. Coop and I, we can go down a rabbit hole on Thrawn real fast. So thank you for joining. Good to see you. And then lastly, I want to bring in Levi Bond from All New Nerds. Hello, Levi.
Oh yeah, hopefully not least.
Not least at all. And I think most people are familiar with all of you, but we look forward to having this discussion today about Thrawn. But before we do that, today we had episode 4 of the Book of Boba Fett. And just by introduction order, what did you think, Gray?
Oh, I love the Book of Boba Fett. I love it. It's one of my favorite shows.
Excellent. And this episode, did you like it?
Oh, I loved this episode. I had a little bit of issues with the last episode, but this one made up for it. So, and I thought that the first 2 episodes should have been released together. I thought they should have released 1 and 2 together. I think that would have made a bigger impact at first. I
can see that. And if you were to rank the 4 episodes, not rate them, but rank them, what order would you put them in, favorite to least favorite?
1 would be like my second favorite. Number 2 is my first favorite. Number 4 is my third favorite. And then number 3 would be my last.
So 2, 1, 4, 3.
Yeah, I didn't like the abrupt ending of the Sand People. It was honestly one of my favorite things about Boba Fett is watching this, and it really bothered me. I'm like the Tao Pueblo tribe of New Mexico, and so I was like, oh man, a big native, like kind of like a native thing, and then it
really was
ended it. Yeah. And so I wasn't too happy with that, but that was my only gripe.
It's been a really good representing the Native Americans, Native Australians, like the Aborigines, all of the native peoples of lands that have been kind of taken over appropriated, yes, by other settlers. So really good. I've enjoyed that as well. Coop, what are you thinking of the Book of Boba Fett so far?
I love the Book of Boba, personally. I think that this season, for me, is pacing better than season 1 of Mando. Not to well, I am comparing, but for me, I've really enjoyed this because it's a change of pace. It's a spaghetti western type of vibe. Like it's a space western for me. Um, we immediately jump off into the Mando Grogu adventure with the Mandalorian, and this is a very interpersonal relationship with Boba Fett and what he's been doing over the course of these past 5-6 years
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
haven't seen him. So yeah, I've enjoyed it, and yeah, I love the rebrand of the Tuscans that's going on right now in Star Wars, because like I never would have thought that we'd be rooting for Tuscan Raiders, but I'm like full swing on board with all the Tuscan stuff.
Yes, it makes to me it makes the slaughter of the Tuscans by Anakin in the prequels heavier.
That's
Yeah, it
why
does.
that's what I was gonna say. It actually makes it so much worse.
It
And
does, which it sort of needs.
it's also
Agreed.
added a layer of depth to it to them as a whole, because we learned that they're a multitude of tribes, so they all
Yep.
have different types of, they're all different, like they're all unique in their own ways, and that's really cool.
Exactly, which really mirrors the native tribes of North America. And
Yeah,
there's so many different. I mean, they're all labeled as Indians or natives, right? But each tribe is different. And as Gray said, you've got a particular tribe that your family goes back
And
to.
there's 16 versions of that tribe. They're the Pueblo tribe, and there's 16 of them. So they
Wow,
do break out a lot.
learning.
it
That's good.
it also reminds me of the Arabian tribes from like back before the colonization of
Yeah.
Arabia as well.
Well, yeah,
Like, does this
Yeah,
it
sorry.
there it definitely like parallels a lot with Lawrence of Arabia, in
Yeah.
Yeah.
the like Boba is like Lawrence in this regard.
So, Coop, what would you rank them?
That is tough. Gosh. Uh I was not prepared to answer that question. Like
Well,
to me, I haven't. I think what was yes, last week's episode was probably my least
okay,
favorite.
yeah,
But I probably would go episode 2, 4, and 3.
1, 2,
Number
4, 3.
one. Wow.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And Levi Bond. Hey, what do
Yeah,
you think
sorry.
of?
Hey.
I just had to jump in on the you're talking about the Arabian tribes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure from like the making of Star Wars, the Bedouins were a big influence. Like World War One, because I mean, even in the last concept art, you see that still from Lawrence of Arabia that they modeled that concept on of the Ottoman train and versus the pike train. So that was definitely an influence. Definitely not a mistake. But in terms of
Sure.
ranking them, I think I go 2, 4, 3 than 1. I'm I think a bigger fan of 3 than most.
Wow. Yeah, I asked this question this morning during my live stream, and almost universally, 3 was last.
Yeah.
But we did have somebody who put 3 not last, so you're not alone, but you're
There's a few of us
definitely,
out there.
I think, amongst the minority for sure.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that I disliked 3, but 3 is my least favorite as well. So for me, I think I went 4, 2, 1, 3.
4, okay. Yeah. Which is
But
great. Look at all the different kinds of like rankings of the episodes. I'm definitely with Coop though, how it's pacing just a little bit better than Mando season 1 so far.
well, I'm anxious when we get through. And Erland, I'm not saying 3 was bad. I was careful about that, right? Like you can have 4 different types of vanilla ice cream, but one of them might be a little richer flavor. One might be have a little different. So they may all be delicious, but
Yeah.
you prefer one over another. So for me, I'm curious when we get done with the whole series, or at least the season, to stand it up against Mandalorian 1 and 2, and to be fair, the Bad Batch. So at this point, for me personally, I put the Bad Batch ahead of the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, Bad Batch has slowly been creeping its way to my number one Star Wars show of all time. I'm
Oh, wow.
rewatching it, and I love it more and more every time. And right
Yeah.
now, Clone Wars is my top, but it's rapidly taking its place.
That's exciting. I saw Levi's like, oh.
Well, because I've been having a similar experience. I just threw on I wouldn't say I wouldn't go that far, but I threw on the episode with Hera, the Ryloth episode the other day, and I just sat down and watched it because of how good it was. And I just watched the whole thing from beginning to end. I just put it on in the background and then I sat down and I watched it and I went, this show is really good. And that came out last year.
I didn't find any filler in that show. I loved
Yeah.
every episode, everything about it, every character, every way they went. I love Omega so much. It is just it's just premium Star Wars in my
That's
opinion.
fantastic.
The ending with Mount Tantus
Oh,
to Thrawn.
it sure does.
Exactly. Here we
And
go.
I want to pause for one moment. Captain Pennsylvania, my friend, it's great to see you. We see the Bills Mafia. The Buffalo Bills have been dominating in NFL. Captain Pennsylvania is a Buffalo Bills fan. Also, Cap, I've reached out to you on Twitter. Could you check your Twitter messages? Get back to me. I'd like to talk to you about Conan. And you are the Conan expert in my friends list. I need to talk to you about Conan. So reach out to me through Twitter. I'd love to talk to you. So there you go.
He has a Discord too, Santa.
Okay. Very good. Well, I need to get hold of Cap. I desperately want to talk to him. So very good.
All you Cowboys fans are doing well out there. Stay strong.
Funny stories. I don't want to go too far down the sports ball thing because there are people here who are not so much into it. But I wanted to talk since I saw Cap here. I wanted to reach out. And there's Meg giving us a hard time. It's good to see you here, Meg. She is.
You're feeling good.
She does need to get better. So I love seeing you here, Meg. I hope that you are getting the rest that you need. And I hope that you're up to talking with us on Friday if you're feeling better. So we talked about the Book of Boba Fett. I don't want to go too far down that. I'd like to get to the topic of the day, Thrawn, and the Thrawn Ascendency, specifically Lesser Evil. But I think we've got to put some things in context first. And Erland, we are planning a trip to Europe. It looks like it's going to get postponed to next year. Maybe we'll touch base. Is Meg sick? Yes, X-Wing. Meg is really sick. Like she's got the virus. She is really, really sick. And
sorry, Meg. We went through that a couple weeks ago. It was bad.
Yeah, she's got the virus, and she's been down for a few days, and she's powering through, though. We get our daily mega dose of content from her. She's hardworking. She does a great job, and we absolutely love her. So take care of yourself.
Her show every morning as soon as I get up and I make my kid breakfast.
Me too. It's the first thing I look for every day is my Star Wars Meg. Dominic. Is this really Meg? I know Dominic's joking because we get new viewers here. They always think that, wait a second, why is Meg hanging out with Star Wars Santa? Like, we're a really good YouTuber and a YouTuber. It's great. So Thrawn, this last novel, Lesser Evil. First, I thought maybe we'd put some context around it and talk about the Thrawn Ascendency as a whole, what the novels are about, what that trilogy is about, and then we'll dive a little deeper into Lesser Evil. So, just as a real quick introduction, and then I'll pass it and let you guys add anything on there. The Ascendancy novel follows Thrawn's military history in the Ascendancy. We start off with him as a young cadet. He gets adopted into a family, and the Chiss have family groups. If you want to think of them as like nation groups here in the U.S., I think after reading Lesser Evil, it makes more sense. So each of those family groups, like if you wanted to think of one as being the U.S., one Canada, one China, one Russia, like that, but they have different family groups. In these family groups, they've got just like the United Nations has the what is it, the group of five or whatever, the group
Security
of
Council, the United Nations Security Council.
right, and there's only like 5 or 7 countries that are involved in that. I can't remember what it is, but
there's 5 permanent members and there's 2. It's 7
that's
total.
it.
There's 2 that rotate out. Yeah.
Perfect. So that is a really good analogy for the family groups in the Ascendancy, and I didn't really pick up on that until this last book, that they're more like nation groups than families like you might think of from Game of Thrones, right? Like these are like nation groups. And there's alliances between them, and some of them have trust issues with one another, all that kind of thing. So we see Thrawn get adopted into one of these families, nation groups, and then work his way through his military career. Along the way, we learned that he's a little, I would say he's a little autistic. When I read his character, he's brilliantly smart, right? Like he can make connections to things that normal people just don't see. But then other things that normal people do see, he's completely
like basic
blind
interactions with people.
right. And I've heard him compared to people that have like Asperger's, right? Like he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. But yeah, the normal interactions like you would have with another human being, he's like, whew, like
They don't use Asperger's anymore. It's just on the spectrum.
Okay. But fair enough. Thank you, Greg. Again, so just the overall of Ascendancy, what would you add to that to put things in context?
If I may, I think the biggest thing for people who are unfamiliar is that it's for the majority of the story is taking place during what we know as the Clone Wars. That's like I think the biggest like time parallel thing is it's during the Clone Wars.
Yes, that's true. And along the way, there have been hints of outsiders kind of pushing in on the Ascendancy. And the Ascendancy has a rule: they don't fire first. But if you fire on them, it's on. It's on. Like don't do it. So that's been a rule throughout. And then the major opponents or the villains in this have been varying groups, but all kind of under the wing of one bad guy, Jixtus. And we don't know much about Jixtus. He's short. We know that. He's not a tall fella. he's short. And he wears a robe. You never see his face. You don't see his race. You don't know where he comes from. And it's not until one of the end of the books that you learn that he is from the Grisk. And he is a leader of some portion of Grisk, right?
I think he is like the equivalent to a Aralani in the Grisk. He's like an admiral because throughout the novels he is reporting to someone else still. So I
For a
think
general, maybe.
or mid-general, something like that. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I bet
definitely
he reports to an admiral type.
yeah.
Yeah, and you so I see Coop, you're thinking.
Yeah, because I mean, he technically he would be an admiral in a naval capacity because he has a multitude of ships that he commands, and they all have their own captain. So
Then again,
technically,
General
he'd be an
Bakif is
admiral.
the head of a navy. Doesn't make it's like sometimes these things in Star Wars it's like
Yeah,
Right.
but you typically don't see
No,
the general used in like a naval capacity because that's usually reserved for the army. Like I could get into the hierarchy.
Right.
of
But
that.
I think there's an equivalency,
Yeah.
generals and admirals, but yeah, Navy terminology is more accurate.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does not represent all of the Grisk, which is an important distinction as we get through this novel. Yeah. Dominic, what's Santa drinking today? Dr. Pepper, zero sugar, cherry.
Official sponsor of Thrawn.
Yeah.
And I agree with Sheev the Wise that Admiral Aralani is awesome, but her voice in the books is awful. It's
You
awful.
know, you're totally right. Like when I read her, when I read the novels, just me and my voice head, my head voice she has a different kind of voice. But when you listen to the novels, her voice is annoying, super annoying.
Yeah, I can't do the audiobooks for that exact reason. I same reason. Like we're at the High Republic right now. I cannot stand the way Mark Thompson reads Marchion Rowe. Can't do it. Marchion Rowe can't do it. So I have to. Read
You
all
don't
the
like
novels.
the Martian Rowe? I think that's
No.
the best voice Mark Thompson does.
I know that's an unpopular opinion because I know everyone loves it, but I cannot do it. And but I don't do audiobooks in general. I can't do audiobooks. I like having my own voice for these people.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm super
I'm not a fan of audiobooks
dyslexic
either for
and
that.
I read too slow.
Yeah. Well, I started by audiobooks because I'm not much of a reader.
Is that true? Is that true, X-Wing? Does Arlani sound like Edna Mode from The Incredibles? That's why would
Yeah,
you
she-
do that?
That's terrible.
You're pretty close.
Oh,
That's pretty
man.
close.
That's bad.
That's true.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't do
it's
it.
annoying. It is. He's. You know, now that I think about it, would you agree with that, Gray? Edna Mode from The Incredibles, Arlani.
Man.
I think that's pretty close.
I picture Aralani like just
No, the voice, just the voice.
Oh yeah, that could be fine. I picture her
No
having
way.
a really pretty like
Yeah.
take charge kind of voice, but yet pretty. And the one in the book was very unattractive. It just didn't sound nice.
Right.
She sounded
right.
kind of like an a-hole.
Like Roscoe should have sounded, I bet. That's how Roscoe should sound.
Well, and that's the other thing is the voice of Jixtus is very deep and like.
And then one of the chis sounded like Han Solo. It was kind of weird.
It's kind of odd. We kind of set up the time frame. It's just before the prequel era, or it's during the early prequel era. And he does have a run-in with Anakin Skywalker along the way, right? So at one point in one of the books, it is he goes out of the Chiss Ascendency. He goes out, and then he's kind of hanging out in a space lane. He's been observing, and along comes Anakin. He touches base with Anakin, forms a relationship with Anakin, helps Anakin out, and then they end up from that getting some technology from the from lesser space. The technology they take is a gravity well projector, right?
Yeah, and that's the plot of Thrawn
That's the
Alliance.
Thrawn trilogy that I really loved. Was that Thrawn trilogy?
Yeah, it's really good, and they also steal some shield technology at one point, or I won't say steal. They are given.
Well, actually, I believe I think we may have gotten it mixed up. The shield technology is from the Republic, and then the gravity well technology is from. So I think now is probably the best time to talk about it because we're talking about how this novel intersects with other novels.
Yep.
And one of the biggest. Oh, go ahead, Coop. What were you gonna say?
I thought the shield though was I thought that was the bubble shield that the Separatists had over their base.
Yeah. It's the bubble
Was
shield. That's from Alliances. Yeah. And then the gravity well projector is from. So here's where things get complicated. This book and these characters in this trilogy are not originally from this trilogy, even though it's from this time period and everyone's like, oh, this is a new era. The book from 2006, Legends, Outbound Flight, is where you first see Thras, Aralani, all of these Ascendancy characters. And there's a part in this novel where it's implied that you should have read that other Legends book to understand this canon event, and it just like skips, and then it references stuff that Timothy Zahn wrote a long time ago, and it starts to get like he's doing his own Timothy Zahn verse. And
I missed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead.
Those books are canon.
Well, Outbound Flight's not canon.
No, not
Not
out. Yeah,
the last
That's
is
what,
canon.
I mean, I'll just say it. I mean, so when the final flashback with Thras, is just like referencing the entire plot of Outbound Flight. And like and for me, like Thras didn't get a proper resolution in this trilogy because it skips from "we're together" to "I am dying," and the events of the book Outbound Flight from Legends have just happened, and you should know that and understand like this whole context of where Thras went and why. And I was like, that feels kind of cheap because like, I mean, I get why he did it, but
yeah, and
I don't read non-canon. I wouldn't be familiar with that at all.
Yeah, I haven't caught up with that one yet either because I've been catching up on the canon novels. And X-Wing, this is a great question. Yes, the Ascendancy series is completely canon, which has some fascinating implications.
Yes.
My favorite part is how Thrawn worked with Anakin Skywalker, and then later when he's in the Empire, he figures out that Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader just because of the way he moves, kind of like how Tarkin did. One of my favorite tie-ins. I absolutely love that.
It's not even like an eventuality. Like he knows it pretty much from the jump that Vader is Anakin. Like,
yeah.
And it's like, yo.
and then Vader like yells at him and threatens him, and he's like, "Yep, Anakin's dead."
And
I see that.
And he goads him into it. Like he's like, how is he going to respond if I say this? And based on that basically affirmed his belief that is Anakin. Like,
yeah, and Thrawn really threads the needle there too.
I saw Hawk's holocron ask if they're going to lean into the Ezra Thrawn relationship like they did with the Anakin and Thrawn, and you bet every dollar that you have that they will absolutely do that.
Yeah, but not until the Ahsoka show.
Yeah, because
they're going to do anything with that until the Ahsoka show.
We're going to get into that. I'm pretty sure.
I kind of keep people from getting confused by jumping around because I'm following you. I'm just not sure everybody else can follow us. True. So these novels, the Ascendancy novels, are interesting because they came second, but they happened chronologically first. So the other Thrawn novels, the other Thrawn trilogy, it's just called Thrawn, right? That trilogy happens later. It happens during the original trilogy era. And Thrawn and Vader are on a mission together. And there's some flashbacks to other things that happen. But Thrawn absolutely figures out that's Anakin. That's that other dude.
And to give a little bit more context, they're on a mission to a world that's on the border of known space and the Ascendancy and the Chaos, which is where they met in the first place, which is like what kind of sort of also tipped Thrawn off into knowing, because he was like, why would he send me and Vader to this location that me and Skywalker met for the first time? Like that, it's too much of a coincidence for someone like Thrawn to just overlook.
And that's where they run into the Grisks, which retroactively, you really, I think it's worth now going back to reread those other ones, because I don't want to jump around too much, but like, so a part of the Chiss way that they traverse through hyperspace in the Chaos, because the Chaos was created, the unknown regions, through a bunch of exploding stars like thousands of years ago. And there's a lot of cool lore too in there with like how the Chiss used to fight with the Sith. Very cool stuff. But they use Force-sensitive children, it's called Skywalkers, to traverse through hyperspace, which is X-Wing is bringing up here. But it's a secret. But then someone finds it out at the end of this book, Kalori, and then in the Thrawn trilogy in the future, the Grisk know about it and are hunting Skywalkers. And it's like, so it's implied that like that secret gets out there, and I don't know, there's like cool connective stuff where
doesn't Kalori tell him? Kalori, I mean,
you got to imagine he tells someone, and then that's how the Grisk know.
Mm-hmm.
He probably starts telling the other people in the other what are they called? The Pathfinders. Yeah. It's probably just a rumor he starts spreading that the Grisk pick up on, because I don't know that where we leave his character that he really kind of goes back to the Grisk. He might be doing his own thing.
I would think he'd be scared of getting stuck in that position again. I would imagine he would never work with the Grisk or anything like that again.
Killed Jixtus, so I don't.
Erland, the answer is sort of yeah. Like if you were to jump into Lesser Evil without reading the first two books, you could do it. you could do it, but there's going to be things that you're just not going to know.
I think there's going to be a lot you're not going to know.
You're going to be lost if you hop into this book by
Yeah,
yourself
and
without reading
that's sort of
anything
why
else.
this conversation feels maybe like we're not getting deep, because this book alone is almost like 600 pages. This thing
I
is
Yeah.
think it could
Yeah,
have easily been 350 and
It is-
gotten all the points across.
I
It's
wanna
long
get to
and
that.
pretentious and miserable to make it through.
I don't know
wanna-
about that. I don't know
Lord.
about that.
I do
Oh.
want to. I do want
This
to.
should
I
be
do
the
want to get to
Cherry
that.
Thalius trilogy, not
We're,
Thrawn.
we're jumping ahead. We're jumping ahead. Just let me put break on it.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you at all, Gray. I think it could have been shorter, but I still trying to kind of put things in context for
sorry.
folks
I'm sorry.
that,
Yeah, that's
that
fine.
don't know anything about what we're talking about. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I got a good. I think that's what I was sort of gonna transition into. So this book is like if you read Lesser Evil and Greater Good, the latter two, they're really tied together. So the main conflict of this is the Grisk, as Santa mentioned, are trying to destabilize the Chiss Ascendancy, because it's like the only real main superpower, if you want to use an Earth analogy, in the chaos, in the unknown regions. Like, this is the one place that has a lot of power, and the Grisk are trying to challenge that power. And so they're trying to foment a civil war amongst the Chiss using all these family dynamics and politics and stuff. And that's like the broad scheme plot of these novels, and Thrawn and crew trying to thwart that plot.
Right, and that's really good. Thank you for that setup, because the other piece of that is that the Grisk use this strategy over and over again. This is their go-to, and they've conquered many civilizations, many worlds, many regions using the same approach. They go in, they plant seeds of division, and then they kind of sprinkle in some grow juice and some water, and they watch it grow. And then once the Civil War has taken place and they've decimated each other, they just kind of come in and do mop-up work, and then they now conquer what used to be a super strong or even any kind of strength group. So they've done this several times, and throughout the first two novels, they use some of these other agencies to kind of plant those seeds. They're not the Grisk. They're some of these conquered people who go in to do their bidding, and they kind of stir things up. They're kind of planting seeds of division and things like that. So we get to Lesser Evil, and they've already conquered a few of these other groups that have come in. And where Thrawn keeps getting in trouble is within the Chiss itself. They have this very strict rule. I mentioned before, very strict rule: you don't fire first. And Thrawn was always right on the razor's edge on that. And a lot of folks really within the Chiss Ascendancy were like, that dude's flirting with the rules, and they don't like him. The other thing is, he's always successful, and he's climbed the ranks really fast. So Thrawn does not have massive support within the Chiss. He's got a couple of champions on his side who kind of helping him along. But as Gray said before, he's kind of blind to social interaction.
He gets help when he's in the Empire too, because he still doesn't get any better with that.
So that's sort of where it picks up. Anything else to put in context before we get into Lesser Evil?
No. I mean, I would, to draw a kind of a real world analogy, the Grisk pretty much are the only force that we've seen in Star Wars that employ modern military tactics like that we use in today's engagements, where espionage is really like the primary front. Like, we don't use large standing armies. Like, we have very covert operations that happen across the globe. That's exactly how the Grisk operate. Like, you're never going to see their armies on full display, even though in this book it's heavily implied that they have an army large enough to take on the Chiss head on. They'd rather weaken their opponent to the point where they all they have left is surrender once the Grisk forces do show up. And like I like I like the Grisk for that reason, because they're a very different opponent than we've seen in
Yeah.
Star Wars, where like they really prioritize the long game. Like they will spy, learn about a culture and the society, find all their weak points and exploit all of those until that society basically breaks itself apart, and then
Yeah.
they swoop in as saviors essentially. And um, that's what gets the loyalty of the opponents that they conquer, because they don't really realize that they're really the adversaries. Like they're under the impression that, oh, the Grisk were here helping us all along, where that wasn't the case. They're the reason why you were destabilized in the first place. So it's a very interesting tactic, because it's not one that by the Chiss doctrine of don't fire first, they would lose to, where they, if it weren't for Thrawn and his ingenuity and the way he works around their rules of engagement. Like just for a spoiler, for instance, like there's a sequence in the book where he drops out of hyperspace outside of their sensor range, fires a full salvo of missiles, then jumps right in front of the ships, talks to them, and gets them to engage with him directly,
and they hit. Oh,
long enough for the missiles to get into range. The Grisk, he goads them into firing at him. Then once they fire at him, he opens fire on them, and then once they start, back and forth, the missiles impact the ship, and then they think that there's another Chiss warship cloaked out in space. Like that was one of the moments in the book where I literally dropped the book. I'm like, bro, come on. Like what are we doing here? Like, what is this? Like, that's the stuff I love about Thrawn. Like that level of ingenuity and timing and stuff like that. It's just, this, you don't see that type of thing happen in any form of Star Wars, really, outside of what Thrawn does.
And Dale's right here. That many of the Chiss have this kind of idea, right? Like no infiltration, no espionage, nothing like that. That all kind of constitutes breaking the rules. And Thrawn's like, well, technically it doesn't. And that's what I mean about, he's like right on the razor's edge. And what many people would assume is he's like, well, technically speaking, and as Coop just put, that scene is really illustrative of how he flirts the rules. You're not allowed to fire first. Technically, he did fire first, but they weren't hit until after they fired, which makes that after.
He was just firing at nothing, He was just firing into space.
He just fired.
Where were they going? We don't know.
Well, he did know.
He knew.
yeah. So that's really good. Ruben asked a question. What about Force according to Thrawn? Where stands with it now?
So here is, I think, one final good piece of context. Because a lot of you, and this I think will eventually tie in, a lot of people may be wondering, well, if all of this is happening and so cool, why isn't it like coming into the known galaxy where Luke, Han, and Leia are? And that's because like 1,000 years before, during like the Darth Bane times, the Sith Wars, the Chiss, people in the Chaos did come into lesser space, and the Sith Wars did not end well for the people fighting with the Sith, and they were like, all right, we're out. All this Force crazy stuff, like, we're done with it. And they just like sort of retreat, and this is when the policies of like, we don't deal with anyone else. That's why that is the way it is. The whole preemptive strike thing is the way it is. It's because the Chiss used to be fighting on the side of the Sith in this crazy, Force war, and it just didn't go well. And
did it explain that in the book?
No,
I missed it somewhere.
Nope. This is from Legends, but it's heavily implied.
Legends.
Like,
they mentioned the Sith. They mentioned the Sith Wars.
They mentioned the alliance that they had during the Great Sith Wars.
Yeah,
in lesser space. But
they say they had an alliance with the Sith 1,000 years ago. I can assume.
And we know what that alliance was, because like Legends, like we know that the Chiss had a formal alliance with the Sith Empire, and they fought alongside the Sith against the Republic and the Jedi, as well as the Mandalorians. Because also you have to throw the Mandalorian Wars into that too, because the Sith will vitiate infiltrated, and he's the one who incited the Mandalorian Wars to happen in the first place. Like if you
like I said, I think
into to Legends.
one of the biggest drawbacks of this book is that Timothy Zahn is referencing a lot of stuff in Legends that he's just assuming that you should know, but you may not as a reader.
That could be why I didn't
and I have
actually care for it that much.
I'm starting to feel like internally at Lucasfilms, Legends is not off the table. Like I don't think I think they've completely mismarketed how Legends works in Star Wars, because they've made way too many references and they're bringing in way too many characters and inferences from Legends.
I mean, Aralani is a Legends character. You know, all these
exactly.
Are
the Skywalkers are Legend.
That's a Legends concept.
Like that's a whole Legends concept. Like everything, like a lot of this stuff is from Legends. Like,
well, I think they like a lot of the Legends, but they couldn't make Legends canon because they wanted to use Chewbacca, who was dead. I don't think they're ever going to go anywhere with Luke. And I think that there's some things they wanted to dispose of, and so, but they probably really liked Legends, and they're like, okay, we need to pick and choose.
Well, I think you guys are talking right on point, and I want to hold off on the connection to Legends material until a little later, because there's you're exactly right, Levi. The very end, because there's a direct tie there. I think, at least in my opinion. So
I mean, go read Outbound Flight after this. Like she was asking, that is the book to connect to this. Like that.
I heard this was the last Timothy Zahn book in Star Wars. Yeah. He's not going to be writing anymore.
Well, we shall see. We shall see.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Why? Oh, I couldn't stand it. There's so many cliffhangers. There's so many stories I want to see where
there are some tie-ins, and it goes to Legends really quickly, and so I just want to hold off on that for a moment. Okay, so we've kind of set up the context for Lesser Evil. Lesser Evil's the third book in the trilogy. We've had all this stuff happen. Thrawn has climbed military ranks through his brilliance. He also has some very strong enemies, both within his family group and other family groups that are kind of setting him up. And Coop and I talked about this once before. The layers of an onion that Zahn has written into this is like mind blowing.
It's like the biggest onion you've seen. James and the Giant Onion over here, man.
There you go. Yeah. I can't get my brain around how he was able to wrap so many layers into the story, because you could totally see where he's got conflict within conflict. Is the story about this conflict or that conflict? Both. Like just the layers and the brilliance in his writing is remarkable. Really, really remarkable.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Blacklist TV show and like House of Cards, like in its complexity and how just messed up like the political arena is inside of the Chiss Ascendancy. Like, but it's so well written that it's actually interesting to read. It doesn't put me to sleep. I'm like,
it just seems like it's about to turn into Game of Thrones over there.
It does. It's so well written.
It gets really close to it too, right? So this book picks up immediately where the previous book left off. Like, they really do fit together as one work, which to me, where I start to side with Gray really closely. Like, why is this a separate book? A and B, like, I think it could have been a lot shorter by kind of getting to the point quicker.
Well, they could cut out all the back and forth, going from the same place, back away, back to the same place, back away, back to this place. That fill of these ships just going back and forth or here and there was just so much. It was so much. It would have shortened that book by like probably 2 hours if they didn't talk about their back and forth flights. And I didn't enjoy that at all.
That's interesting. Well, I don't know. Yeah. Well, maybe I guess in terms of an audiobook, that probably would be, because it didn't feel that long to me, honestly. Like reading it.
23 and a half hours on audiobook.
That's a daunting task.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can't do that. Yeah, I couldn't do audiobook. That's why I don't do audiobooks. I like my own.
You're reading that much still. That's more daunting for me. I'm just saying it didn't need to be so long.
Right.
For me, it didn't feel that long though. Like honestly, reading it, it didn't feel that long. Like maybe I did spend 23 hours total reading the book, but it didn't feel like I read for 23 hours.
Did anybody else feel that Thrawn was a side character in this book, and it was the story of Thalius and
so
Cheery?
Here's a point. Here's a point that I should have led with this off the top. That because there are a lot of people watching this, and we'll watch this after the fact, who probably won't read a Thrawn book. The thing about the Thrawn books, all of them, every single one, you are never at any point, except for one time, reading from Thrawn's perspective. This story, all of these stories are other characters. That's why you have Eli Vanto and Thalius and Cheery and et cetera, et cetera. There's only one point in the entirety of 6 books that you have from his perspective.
No.
Yeah.
You have from his perspective all the time when he's with Anakin Skywalker. He voices what he's doing.
It's always like,
I disagree.
Well, I will say that this book, to
at
me,
least
I
in this
agree.
trilogy, you never get it except for once.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
I agree with that
I mean,
100%.
Even in Heir to the Empire, you don't really. It's not from his perspective either.
No. Heir to the Empire is totally not.
I just think that's
but
super key to Thrawn's character, is the way
It-
Zahn.
it kind of is, but also a lot of this story happens other places, other characters. Thrawn's not even tangentially associated with it. He's doing whatever, but the bulk of the story is happening with, say, Arlani, or it's happened with who's that other commander that's on the opposing team?
Well, there's
or
which one?
One of the
There's
other
Zinda,
families.
formerly Lakinda, and then there's
No.
Rosku.
Rosku really comes out of nowhere, and she has a big chunk of the story in this whole book, which is kind of cool at the end of the day, because you get it'd be like a Russian general and a U.S. general at the end working together to overcome another threat, right? But boy, you spend a lot of time with that Russian general. What you really want to do is spend time with the U.S. general. You know what I mean?
Well, to me, for me, the way I read her story, it's just reinforcing how easily it is for the Grisk to infiltrate a society, because you've got double standards, basically, is what this is. Like, she does not have anyone in her corner like Thrawn and Arlani do. And because, and she explains it in the end, because she wasn't, she didn't have someone in her corner basically protecting her, she was demoted and basically pushed out of the fleet, whereas Thrawn and Arlani have continued to climb. And it's stuff like that can allow for something, a entity like the Grisk to come in and seed seeds of rebellion.
Yeah. So let me make this less vague. So Thrawn is a member of the Myth family, and the Myth family is generally considered, from your reading, they're like the good guys. They're the strong family. Somebody said just a minute ago, they're like the superpower. Like, the Myth family is it. Then Rosku comes from the
Klar, I believe.
The Klar family, which would be equivalent to maybe the Chinese military or something like that, or the Russian military. She's very, very important, but she also doesn't have. They kind of are more intimidating, the way that they make her carry out commands. So Rosku's given commands. She can't question the command. She can't challenge it. She has to do what she's told to do. And she also feels like these other families are undermining, they're lying, they're deceiving. And what has happened is that the Grisk have planted a lie. They have a secret camera inside of a man-made asteroid, and they record some war games. And in the war games, they have created fake ships that look like Chiss ships doing maneuvers that seem a little sketchy. And so what they do is they release a short clip of this war games thing, and they start planting to these other families, oh, they're secretly war gaming against you. And the other families are like, what? and then like Roscoe says, well, I want to see more. So they go and they get more, and then they buy into the bait. They take the bait. Like, oh, these other families, they're wargaming against us. We've seen the evidence with our own eyes. And then it's about revealing the lie. Right? The book is about trying to reveal what is this war game scenario. And they start to pick up where the markings on the ship are not as unique as the family markings are. Like I think a lot of people see bombers from World War II, right? They've got a pin up on them, painted on the side of them and whatever. So different planes would have different kind of markings on them. And each family would put a little bit of a twist into their ship. So there might be a family crest, or let's say the flag of the nation. Again, trying to make the correlation between countries. So you might have a Russian flag, a U.S. flag, a Chinese flag. That identifies what that ship is, right? Like this is a U.S. vessel. Then there would be some sort of customization in the painting that would make they're not all just copy paste, right? So each ship kind of has its own little bit of distinction. Well, they find out from this video that all the ships are exactly the same. The markings are exactly the same, and they shouldn't be that way, which kind of breaks the spell, shows that it's fake.
Yeah. Like how each of the squadrons, like Red Squadron, Blue Squadron, all are their ships are painted with the color markings to correlate with their squadron. Like it's right. The same with the Chiss warships. Like they have colors and markings that correlate with their families, and each of their warships has a unique, probably color associated with it.
It is so nuts because that is only like one paragraph on one page of this book. Like there's so we could talk for 23 hours about this novel. You know, like there is so much. It is so onion. Like there's so much density. You know, like we could talk about how the sun on Scylla went out and they moved all their people off planet, and like we could just talk about that for. You know,
and honestly, like even this is the most in-depth look that we've had at the Ascendancy in all of Star Wars. So to me, I don't even mind. That's why the length doesn't bother me, because like the Chiss have always been shrouded in mystery. Like
I liked what we learned about the Chiss. I loved all those little things. I didn't like like I said, the ongoing back and forth of the ships and all that stuff. But what we learned about the Chiss and all that stuff was great. I definitely enjoyed that part of it.
It's definitely over dramatized in some regards as far as like the length goes, but I still enjoyed the ride because I'm like, it's the last book. So it's the last one.
I like how Thalius, when she was trying to find out about the Skywalker program, how she found Thrawn's sister.
Yeah, there's like a Black Widow plot in this book, you know? Like there's so much going on.
Of the book.
Well, here's another part, and X-Wing is absolutely on point here as well. This Odo suffix, right, Mithron. So with the Chiss, they've got these long family names that have different pieces pegged on, right? And so some of them mean things. And Mithron, you see with all the other members of the family, they end in with it, not Odo. They what is it? ONU or UNO?
That's what I mean. Well, there's Nuru, there's like for example, like Thalius is Myth Thali Ostov, and so Thalius is her core name.
Right.
Thrawn is Thrawn was Mithra Nuru, but now he's Mithra Nerodo because he gets the Odo suffix.
Right, he gets the Odo suffix, which is only given out like 3 or 4 times in Chiss history, like a ridiculously low number of times.
Doesn't it mean protector or something?
It does. It means guardian. And this term guardian keeps coming up. And I want to talk about it a little bit. Thrawn's motivation. Why does Thrawn do what Thrawn does? Why? What's his core? What is it that makes him tick? And I want to share with everybody. I've got this up because I do have this on Kindle, and I want to bring up this.
I think there's one paragraph that you should like. There's a
couple
moment in this book. That's
So-
that is Thrawn, and that is why he becomes evil later on, and it's sad.
So you can see.
Is he evil?
Well, you know what I mean.
I highlighted
We'll see.
I highlighted certain parts, and
this one right here.
This is in chapter 10. It says, "My job, the sole reason for my existence, is to defend the Chiss Ascendancy and protect my people. I will do whatever is necessary to achieve that goal, and I will allow nothing and no one to stand in my way." That happens in chapter 10. If you keep going, and you get towards the end of the book, and I've got it highlighted, it shows up again. Here's all the Guardian stuff. It shows up right here. It is. No, this is the chapter 10 one. Where is it? It happened. Basically the exact same thing is stated again at the end. And there's a few other quotes in here where he tries to protect lives. And this term guardian or protector keeps showing up. And here you can see Thrawn Nurunu, Nuru, is changed, henceforth carries the ODO. And it says the original language of our family, the word mark of a guardian or protector, who had worthy of most extreme respect. So that comes in. You guys see this word star flash. That's their weapon that they come up with. But this word guardian appears over and over and over in the book. And you find out that guardian does not actually refer to Thrawn. For a long time, I thought it was. But then you find out that it actually... Yeah. But he is a guardian. He cares about other lives. He tries to protect lives. He does everything he can to keep people from being killed. Not only Chiss lives, but those of the people that he is fighting against. I agree where I see he is not evil. I agree.
I don't know. I think
I
he wasn't
disagree.
evil.
When
I think
he attacked
wasn't-
the rebels on Adelon, with the Bendu that was straight up evil. It's war games,
and I
doing
think-
what you're told.
And that's part of the tragedy of this trilogy is like at the end of the book when it says like some Nemoidian refugees have shown up and it's like, oh, that's cool. And they're like, the Clone Wars has ended. It's an empire now. And they're like, okay. And then the epilogue of this book is the prologue of the first Thrawn book, which is really cool. It's like, it's just the same thing. It's the word for word the same thing. But like Thrawn says, oh, I'm going to go for like 6 months or a year. We know he doesn't go for 6 months or a year. He goes for like 20 years because he is this way. He is so focused on like getting enough power to protect the Ascendancy that he allows himself to be corrupted by the Empire. He's like someone who is like role playing and just gets way too into the role. Like that's the way I see it. Like he is immersed in the Empire for so long that he just becomes like committed to this idea of like power. And
Well, let's hold on.
Still be a bad guy and
I was about to
protect
say, I don't feel like
your
way.
people.
So
just
you're
because you're protecting somebody, what you do doesn't make it okay or you a good guy. Just because you're protecting your people, I could go out and murder a bunch of people and say, "Hey, that protected my family," but that doesn't make me good.
You jumped way ahead. We've gone way outside of lesser evil.
that's in the book. I think it sets up like his like.
Well,
his,
I don't think
his
so.
Personality.
In the Thrawn Ascendancy novels, it's clear that he's trying to protect lives and that he is trying to protect the Ascendancy. That is his motivation through this trilogy. And that's what I wanted to kind of get to, is he is not seeking power for himself. He is not trying to take over the Ascendancy. He's not trying to rule the Ascendancy. He has no desire to rule the Ascendancy. He is only trying to protect the Ascendancy. And it's repeated throughout the trilogy, and it's repeated in this book.
He's always like that with the Empire, with everything. He's not out for power. He's trying to recruit the Empire to help the Chiss.
Yeah, he's trying to get power enough to defend from the
because
Gurks.
he sees the Empire as a tool, a means to help protect his people.
Again, we're jumping ahead. We're jumping ahead a little bit because I
But
want
he
to
does
get there.
bad things. The Empire is bad. I think he's bad, man. I think
I
he's
agree
we'll
with
get-
Levi.
We'll get
Yeah.
there. We'll get there. Hold on. We're not done with lesser evil.
Okay.
We got to get there. So because we will, trust me, we will get there. But so lesser evil, there is a super weapon that the Chiss have used before. It involves sacrifice, and it led to Scylla being the way that it is. Right? When we know the home planet of the Chiss, Scylla, if that's how you pronounce it, is largely devoid of life. It's iced over. That people live underground. It's inhospitable climate, but it's their home world. They stay there. We learned why it's that way. It's because they use this super weapon. The super weapon has a Chilla. Sheev says Chilla. It has a side effect, and the side effect is that it damaged their sun. It damaged the planet, and it can no longer sustain life the way that it did prior.
More like
And-
Shilla, am I right?
That
That was for Meg. That was for Meg.
That was for Meg. There you go.
Yeah.
But we find out that the family has another one of these in storage. That they could bring out another of these super weapons. I'm not sure why we learned that they have this other weapon.
I think
They were going to use it.
Well, they didn't.
I know, but they had it ready to use.
I think it was about just the tragedy of the Chiss. I mean, because a lot of that tied into like what he was willing to sacrifice, and so basically
He
to go
would
to
have
the
done
more,
it again.
yeah, to go to like the more family dynamics. So there's this place in this Chiss Ascendancy. Like I said, there's just so much lore. You can't. There's not enough time to break it all down. There's this place called the UAG, the Universal Analysis Group, and it's like the CIA black site of the Chiss Ascendancy. And it's run by this family, the Stibla. And they used to be like the top dogs. And they're the ones with the super weapon. They used to be the family until they were so powerful, they stepped down to allow the other families to like create a council instead of them. But now they're like a lesser family. But secretly, they've maintained this like huge amount of power and alliance with the Myth family. And that ties to like, we haven't even talked about Thras. In like the flashbacks with Thras, he's like looking at the painting, and there's the patriarch who lost all her kids, and like that ties to the super weapon. Oh, there's just so much. It's like an onion, like you said. Like there's no way to talk about it without all these pieces, man. It's this huge puzzle.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then you learn that the Stibla and the Myth have a long history dating back as far as the big Stibla dynasty, and they've maintained that relationship. And the Myth, that's why the Myth have basically sustained their prominence throughout the history of the Chiss as one of the prominent 9 ruling families as well.
Weren't they the one that sacrificed a bunch of their family to save, and that's what made them go high in the rank?
See, I interpreted it as there wasn't any there wasn't a rank really. It was just the Stibla and everybody else underneath them. And then when the Stibla stepped down, that's when the 9 ruling families came in to take over that vacuum.
Yeah, I'm afraid we're losing people because
it's too dense. It's just too dense.
If you haven't read these stories, we kind of gotta draw a thread that people can follow, right? And so I just worry that we're kind of muddying it up a lot.
Oh, there's no way. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just so muddy.
It is very difficult to explain these. And I'll go where Coop and I talked about this before. I am dying for some Disney Plus series set in the Chiss Ascendancy about the Chiss. I very much want to see this explored, this time frame, this part of Star Wars universe explored on film, be it a Disney Plus series, animated series, movies, all of it. Give me all of it.
A lot of blue
because this is too deep to kind of just explain to people that haven't spent time in the Ascendancy all the political intrigue. There are layers and layers and layers of political sportsmanship going on. And these families have certain alignments and certain affiliations with each other that begin to kind of undermine their trustworthiness. And so there's a lot of mistrust. There's a lot of questions about what is, who is with who. And it's what makes this new general stand out, because she has her family alliances. She has her responsibilities to her political affiliation. And at some point, she has to say, see a bigger picture and say, this is too much, right? I'm got to do the right thing, not necessarily think for my family. I've got to do the thing that's right for our people as a whole. It is a really great story. It's a really great story. It makes the book longer, but it's a great story.
Well, if they would stop dragging their feet on an Old Republic series and give us what we want, then maybe we could start going down.
Oh
this
my
path.
God, Coop! Can you imagine
I
they do
need
the,
this.
they do the
I need
Ascendancy
this.
story during like the Sith Wars? Like they do.
That's why
Oh,
we
man.
need that.
Oh, can
We
you
do
imagine?
need it.
They
Because
do
you-
it during that.
because
Oh, it'd be
you
so
get-
cool.
You get the
We-
Sith Empire, you get the fledgling Republic, you get the Mandalorians
man.
at the height of their empire. Like
Like the
and
ultimate
then
Star
you can
Wars
also
thing.
throw in the Hutt cartel, like the massive Hutt Empire cartel that we got in the Old Republic as well, that basically ruled the Outer Rim. After
Zemo
I
the
guess
Hutt. I'd like to see him in live action.
Well,
oh man. But the
Right.
Hutts had like these huge machines of war, like that
I love it.
basically it kept the Sith and the Mandalorians out of the Outer Rim, because that's how powerful the Empire was.
Yeah. And Sheev, I think Sheev put it real well here. Pay attention to your country's crazy politics, right? Like those of us that live here in the U.S., we've got crazy politics here in the U.S. We do not
Yeah.
own. We
Are the
do not.
Gris coming for us? Is that what's happening?
we do not own craziness in politics, but we have our own craziness here. They have their own in Canada. They have their own over in the UK. There's crazy politics everywhere. But he's right. Paying attention to your own country's crazy politics, and then knowing all the other countries as well. And that's the gist. That's a real good way to put it. Lesser evil.
I don't know why Meg's comment really cracked me up. Canada. Like, what am I? It's just like something about that.
It was.
Want to be Americans? Well, over 50% of them, like over 50% of them live as
like
south as
90%. Yeah,
the
man.
U.S. Yeah.
Like 80% of them.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's
Just
a
like
lot.
right on, like a couple
Within an hour of
speckles
the
up
U.S.
in
border.
the.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got this thing going on. The Grisk have planted this lie, and the Chiss are at each other's throats. Everybody thinks everybody else is lying, and they're all getting ready to go to war against each other. We are right there at the brink of war, and they finally figure out what the lie is, and now we've got a big mess on our hands. Go
Only
ahead.
some people figure out what the lie is, and I think that's the key to understanding the big part of the trilogy. Is that so all the Chiss are at each other's throats in the. It's called the Syndicer, and like that's like the Senate of the Chiss Ascendancy. But they all hate each other. But you know what they hate more? Thrawn and his nonsense. And so, in order to like fix this problem, he is like, okay, I'm just gonna attack the Grist because I know and like I know how to fix this. I'm gonna do my thing, and then they're all gonna pin it on him. And then so when he gets exiled, it sort of like slaps a band-aid on the whole thing. It's like, oh, we all hate this other guy. We can blame him for all our problems, and then we'll exile him, and he'll be going,
Right. Well,
Grist defeated,
that's a
Thrawn
good
gone.
point. So
Thumbs up.
the novel sort of does build up to this. Some people have seen through the lie. Thrawn, Arlani, and what's the other one? Scylla. What's her name?
Zinda.
Zinda.
Formerly
They
Lakinda.
Lakinda. Yeah, I know. It's Chiss stuff.
She's changed from Zodalak to Irizi. Come on,
So-
people.
So these people kind of see through it, and they're given orders to go back to Scylla. They're trying to go back to go to your corners. Everybody, go to your corners. We're going to get the military, the expansionary force out of the way, and we're going to just go at it, family to family. Here we go. Well, they decide, well, we're going to circumvent the rules. We're going to go out to this other place together where they believe that the Grisk are going to be, right? And so, lo and behold, who shows up? The Grisk, right? They show up, and there's a big war out there. The Chiss are outgunned, but it's Thrawn's military brilliance that gives them the upper hand, and they end up winning. Now, something else you start to learn about the Grisk is that they will blow themselves up. They don't want their technology, their identity. They don't want anything about them known.
Even what they look like.
Right.
They'll kill themselves before you uncloak them.
Exactly. And they blow up their ships to such small... We lost Gray. She'll be back.
We got two coops. We got Coop there.
You got Coop looking at Coop like, what's...
Is that who's
She's back.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. It's all right. So we've got what was I saying? I got lost.
the final battle?
No, they'll blow up their ships to such small chunks that you can't even assess anything of their the construction, the contents, anything, because it's all just dust, right? So the Grisk, and we learned that the big bad guy in the whole story, that's been Jixtus, who's been kind of running things from behind the scenes. He gets out in the open, and they have this big open war. And right when he realizes that he's beat, and there's a great double cross that happens right at the end, which is great, which is awesome. The double, I kind of saw it being telegraphed, right? The double cross, you could kind of see it being telegraphed, and then it happened. But when he realizes that, he blows himself up. The end. Somebody getting.
Oh yeah, can we get those out of the chat, man?
Yeah, we got to get.
I was working on it.
Yeah.
We've got. We've got some mods.
That's some nasty spamming today. Holy cow!
I know. They're not fans of Thrawn, I guess.
They're like really bad spams too. Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. They're like, okay. Right. Man on the moon. What the actual? Right. Like,
yeah, I mean, like seriously, I'm like, whoa.
You guys.
That's awful.
You guys have made me do this. I was resisting. But I'm going to actually add Meg as a moderator. Now she has...
No.
I know.
No, you're in
Now
for it now.
She has even more power. Like, she needed that. But,
who will mod the mods?
Right. Who's going to mod Meg?
I'm not modding Meg. I'm scared of Meg.
My goodness. Oh my goodness. Meg has the power, unlimited power. See, this is what I was afraid of.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've just handed unlimited power to.
You might regret this, Santa.
Yeah.
I've been resisting.
A crisis presented us, and now we handed over power to Meg.
But she'll attack everyone.
Oh my
so
God.
Great.
It's like I'm reliving the prequels all over again.
Yeah, this is.
I feel like Jar Jar Binks right now.
Meg, quote that one. I feel like Jar Jar Binks right now.
I do. What have you done? I know. So they blow themselves up. Now the kind of real interesting bit about it is that Jixtus in his army was absolutely.
Yeah. You did it, Santa. Now she's funnier than she was before, and she's going to distract us all.
What can I do? I blame the bots.
She's gonna ban Canada. Watch out. She's coming for Canada now.
Oh my goodness. We find out that he is only part of the Grisk. Oh no! I shouldn't have read. Right? My eyes.
Don't get demonetized again. Don't do it. Stop.
I shouldn't have read it. It was going so well up until now.
See?
I know. It's terrible.
Meg, the
it-
only one dares to be crude on Santa's station. I'm scared. I would not.
She's hilarious. She's and yeah, she tries to embarrass me, and she's quite good at it.
She does it. He's in red every time.
Oh man,
It's terrible. And I'm like, it's hot in here. Shoo! I'm like, can
Look,
I
he's
get
starting to turn the color of his shirt, guys.
can I get a fan? Oh my goodness. We find out that Jixtus is only in charge of a small bit of the Grisk. The Grisk present themselves. If they were to bring their entire fleet against the Ascendancy, there would be no hope. The Ascendancy would be powerless.
I don't know. I don't know if they'd be completely powerless, but they definitely have an advantage. The Gris would have an advantage.
I think they'd have a sizable advantage. Yeah, as a
X-Wing, don't give her more. Don't.
I think the Chiss seem a bit technologically regressive. Like,
Yes.
because they're reclusive, just like
They don't work with anybody else, so unless
Yeah.
if they
They
don't
remind me-
invent it, it doesn't get invented.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the ancient Chinese dynasties that basically just held up behind their wall, and then technology just kind of passed them. Like
That's
the
a
world,
great comparison. That's a great
the
comparison.
world
Actually.
just
Yeah,
passed
I
them
really
by,
like
and
that. Mhm.
It's
I-
they're kind of in that cycle right now, and by the time of the original trilogy, like the Grisk in comparison, I'm pretty sure take all of the technology from the species
People
that
they
they
conquer,
conquer and then use it kind of like the British of that time. And so like the Grisk are like the British, and the Chiss are like the Chinese, and it's only a matter of time before that technological advantage plays in favor of the Grisk, which is what we
The
see
Gris,
in
they have missiles
that
on their
Thrawn
missiles.
novel.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
do.
exactly. Like
They really do.
They've learned their tactics, and they've learned how the Chiss fight. And minus Thrawn is the only one that they weren't able to figure out. But the Chiss handled that problem for them.
Yeah.
So
The elves, man. The
yeah.
elves are getting rowdy.
The work has begun again. So X-Wing, day one of me trying to get banned by Meg. There's been some comparisons in the past between the Grisk and the Yuzan Vong.
Yes.
Not the same.
Nope.
No, not the same.
Not
But
the same.
pose the same threat.
Yeah, similar, not the same.
Right.
Pose the same threat, but not the same at all.
So there's a lot of people who think that maybe the Grisk are replacing the Yuzan Vong. I want to argue that that's not the case.
You can name me directly.
Yeah. People that we may know that we may be talking
You don't have
to
to.
right
You don't have to beat around the bush on that one. You can. I'm here.
I'm sitting
I will
right
argue
here.
with you. I'm sitting right here. This is why you brought me on today. This is exactly why. I'm ready. I've been waiting for this.
Well, I think that it's an and, not an or. Right? I think that the Grisk are coming in as they are an equivalent threat, but I don't think they're at all replacing the Yuzan Vong. And the Yuzan Vong could still absolutely be part of the picture.
Meg needs to be stopped. It's
like I said, I'm not a fan of the Vong too much. Like, I like the Grisk better, and as I stated in the previous stream when I was on after we were talking about what was that, the first Ascendancy novel or the second? I think that this confrontation is going to take place in the chaos.
yeah.
And I would like to also remind everybody in the Thrawn novels, in the first trilogy, well, the first new canon trilogy for Thrawn, they've made some comparisons between the Star Destroyers in size and just overall manpower in comparison to the Chiss warships and the Man of Warship. That is what we've learned is the largest capital ship that they have in their fleet, and a Star Destroyer is still dwarfs that in comparison. the Grist don't seem like they are warships, or at least Jixta's fleet didn't seem to have anything that was much larger than the Men of War either. Which brings me to a tactical point about how pivotal those Star Destroyers that Thrawn seems to be manufacturing. If we
Building
jump
in Mandalorian. There we
current,
go.
if we jump to the
Yeah.
current timeline, that would give the Chiss a significant tactical advantage, because not only is it a ship to ship battle, which is what the Star Destroyers are built for. Like, that is their strength. Like, the Rebel Alliance did not go toe to toe with the Imperial fleet because they would lose handedly. They had a fighter advantage over the Empire.
Hey, but they'll last longer than they will against that Death Star.
Well,
Yeah,
let's
'cause
bring up something
now-
here with. Go ahead.
Close, I said closer.
Also, too, another point I want to bring up is all throughout these books, we have never seen the Grisk or the Chiss use fighters.
True that.
That's
That's
true.
going to be another big advantage, because the Star Destroyers have hangars, and like they can. And he used the way he used the TIE fighter squadrons that were in the Star Destroyers is going to be interesting against the Grisk. I don't think the Grisk going to be prepared for like even a small fleet of Star Destroyers.
So let's kind of get to the end of the book here, because I know it's tough. The end of the book, the bad guy's dead. We still don't know who they are, where they come from. There's no clue. Nobody knows. Go ahead.
Sure. So just I think it's in the first Ascendancy book, or the first Thrawn trilogy, but it said that the Grisk are like a nomadic species, and they don't actually have a planet, and they're just like one big war fleet that travels around. They're kind of like the, like a Genghis Khan kind of thing. I think that's the analogy that Timothy Zahn was trying to go for. Like,
So they don't have a planet; they live on generational ships.
Yeah, they said that it said in the first Thrawn trilogy. I'm 90% sure that like the rumor is they just have a big fleet that just travels around.
Thank you, X-Wing. I appreciate your support. I appreciate the support. Thank you so much. So we get to the end. Do you think? Well, there's so many questions I want to ask, but we get to the end. Look, the Chiss decide. There's the Chiss decide to set Thrawn up as the scapegoat, because all these families have distrust. They all are thinking that they're all lying to one another. So they decide, we're going to put all of this onto Thrawn. We make him the scapegoat, and we're going to expel him. We're going to send him out. They strip all his medals away. They strip all his military titles away. Interestingly, though, they leave the suffix, the Odo. The Odo he keeps that, which means guardian.
He also keeps his family name Myth, though, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He doesn't technically
So he's
kicked out of the
Just
family.
doesn't have any rank.
Oh, we lost Gray again.
She'll be back. Yeah. Okay. X-Wing has to go do stuff. So thank you so much, X-Wing. So they set him out, and they decide they're going to put him on this planet out in nowhere that happens to be real close to a lesser space travel lane. And
By the freeway.
yeah, right. He's near the interstate, not a popular exit. Right, there's no other stops there, but there's an exit off the freeway right there, and so they leave him there. I think they're setting up for the same thing that we kind of saw in the Bad Batch with Mount Tantus. I think they're setting up for an adaptation to Heir to the Empire, and that the end of this book leads us right there.
Haven't you guys read the Thrawn comic? Because it picks up where he's left off, and it has that whole story in it, and how the Empire found him.
That's in the first book too.
Yeah, it's adapted from that first Thrawn book.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think they're setting up for him to get found. Yeah.
He does get. What? I'm a bit confused because he does get
get found by the Empire.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm saying that the comic run that Marvel did that
adapts
I
the
wish
first
they
Thrawn.
would finish that run.
Yeah. I see.
Right.
Really good.
Right, right. And then I think they're setting up for an adaptation to Heir to the Empire, which raises, like, we wonder where was
Well,
Thrawn then?
and that it would make sense why they put that into the Essential Legends catalog in May.
Yes, because what about the missing fleet
You
from
mean
Heir
like
to the Empire?
Katana
The
fleet?
Katana fleet.
Well,
The-
I think that Coop brought up. I think the Katana fleet is going to be whatever Morgan Elsbeth was building
Yeah,
for 5 years
it's
or
that
whatever.
fleet.
Because people are sleeping on the fact that in the show, like in live action Star Wars, this isn't in some book, she is destroying an entire planet, and Mando's like, she's still in business. She is
And
making,
she's been doing it to multiple
yeah,
planets.
Yeah, she is making a fleet of ships for Thrawn. Like that's not like, oh, who is it? She says, I work for Thrawn. They've got the 7th Fleet logo on the droids. Like she is making a fleet for Thrawn. So I think that's probably what the Katana fleet's going to be instead.
Instead,
And Ezra is right alongside him.
Yeah.
what?
Oh, Ezra, I would imagine he's helping him save the Chiss people.
100%.
Yeah.
I
I
promise you that the Thrawn that we get in the Ahsoka show is going to be more in line with the Thrawn that we get in these Ascendancy books than the Thrawn that we got in Rebels.
agreed.
You-
I completely agree, Coop. I think that he's not evil. I keep going back to that. Thrawn is not evil.
I'm going.
But he just does evil stuff, so
He just does.
Well,
he just
no.
kills people.
Yes, he does. He does do evil stuff.
he does
but
do
I
that.
think
he
that
does
there
evil
is
stuff,
a-
but he's not evil. That sounds about right.
I think
I'm with Gray.
that there
I'm with
was
Gray
a
100% on this
I think there was a opportunity or some miscommunication between how Thrawn was going to write Thrawn in the new canon novel trilogy and how Filoni portrayed him in Rebels, because they are completely misaligned. Like, if you even if you read Thrawn the first trilogy and then you watch Rebels, like even in that he's not like there's clearly some sort of miscommunication with how this character is supposed to be portrayed, because Thrawn writes him one way.
Zahn.
Zahn. Zahn writes him one way, and then Filoni portrays him more or less like sort of how he is in Heir to the Empire, and Thrawn takes the character in a completely different direction. Like, he's even more heroic in the novels than he is in Rebels. Like, he does take into consideration like how many casualties there are on both sides. He does try to avoid conflicts where he can. He's not like that at all in Rebels, like in the show. Like, he's more like he was in the Edge of the Empire novels, and I think that was just an honest miscommunication, unintentional on Lucasfilm's part.
Yeah, and
being coordinated.
I think they've even retconned a bit of that from Rebels.
Yeah,
to say that
Yeah.
right, that the number of civilians killed was
It was actually Price who did that, and not basically when they introduced Thrawn, they're talking about this battle of Baton, and Callus like remarks, wasn't the civilian casualties really high during that battle? And Price is like, yeah, whatever. But that's because in the book, Price is actually responsible for all of those deaths and not Thrawn.
Okay.
And
Right.
Thrawn just takes credit for it because he's like, technically she was under his command, so he took responsibility of that. But
I
he
just
did
don't
not
think
give you
he's
word.
a good guy. I don't think he can do as many evil things. He doesn't have to be an evil guy or a bad guy, but he's not a good guy. Just like Palpatine's not a good guy. People like to throw that out there all the time. They're not. And just because it's somebody's favorite character doesn't mean he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He does bad stuff.
I wouldn't say he's a hero or a good guy, but he's going to do whatever is necessary to protect the Chiss Ascendancy, and that's a big departure from the Heir to the Empire Thrawn, who only cared about serving the Empire.
But even that, though,
he's not going to be like that.
Even that got retconned in Legends to be
Yeah.
he was trying to protect from the Yuuzhan Vong, you know?
Yes.
right.
And
So
it's
like,
the same, it's the
yes.
same type of
Yeah.
like he just like he said in the book, like he will go to whatever end and pay whatever cost to protect his people. Like, he doesn't
Right.
care. Like, that right there tells you, like,
But that doesn't
he's
make
not
you a
your
good
that
guy.
is full
That's-
good guy.
That's
Like,
all I'm
he's-
saying. That doesn't make you a good guy.
Well, but
Yeah,
even I just reread Heir to the Empire because it'd have been like 20 years.
That means he's a good guy, because you know he's got you got nothing to worry about.
But even in Heir to the Empire, he is not just bloodlust. Like,
No.
I don't
he
think
tries
he's
to
bloodlust.
he tries to avoid killing by faking them out and getting them to to resign before they actually go to battle. So he does these fake outs. He's not just destroying planets. He comes in and he overtakes them. So,
well, I think we can talk all day about like his characters and like his personality, but he's still a villain. Like I feel like he's still on the bad guy side. He is still against the heroes. I don't know.
I don't know. Is he?
I don't think he cares that much about what happens in Lesser Space. Like honestly, like, he cares about what's happening.
Where the confusion is here.
Because
I'm totally lost.
He's not going to fight the New Republic. Like he's not unless they turn against the Chiss. He doesn't really care. Like all he cares about is helping the Ascendancy fight back the Grisk. If the New Republic wants to get involved, he's not going to turn the help down.
He sees an opportunity, like in the fact that the New Republic is weak at this point, and that he could take over and then have more strength to then resist.
Yeah, like, but as long as
which would still put him against the New Republic.
If that discourse is what he believes is necessary to protect the Chiss people, yes, of course.
He's doing it. He's doing it. He's a seeds of a single mind.
Like, he's going
kind of like Saw Gerrera.
Like,
he's kind of like Saw Gerrera.
Great comparison.
Saw Gerrera's not a good guy.
Great comparison.
Yeah.
But they're very similar. They have the same. They just want to protect. They do what needs to be done. But that doesn't make you. That doesn't take away the bad stuff you've done. You can't just go donate your entire wealth to something and say, oh well, all this bad stuff I did, doesn't matter now because I did all this good stuff now.
I think the Saw Gerrera comparison is great. Saw Gerrera is like the light side version of what Thrawn is. Light side in quotes. Like he is on the good guy side, but that guy does some insanely bad things.
I love Thrawn. I think he's great. I love his middle ground. He's like on a sword. He's like, is he good? Is he bad? I mean, what's he gonna do next? I love that, but I just don't think you can put him in the good guys like Luke Skywalker is a good guy. You can't put Thrawn in there. Leia is a good guy. You can't put Thrawn in there with them. You cannot do it. It doesn't fit.
I wouldn't put him in Luke Skywalker category, but I'm not saying like he's not Vader and he's not the Emperor either. Like he's very neutral. Like
exactly
all you know is like he's going to do what he thinks is right in order to protect his people. Like that's all that he cares about. Like plain and simple. So like if that means he's going to be going up against the good guys in the New Republic and Luke Skywalker, then he absolutely will do that.
I completely agree with Coop.
He will, like he said, I will pay whatever cost to protect my people.
And he's taken time to help people who need help. He's taken time to help people who were hopeless. He's taken time to help people survive. He has gone out of his way to not kill people when he can. So he is not just
I agree with that. I don't think Saw Gerrera is just a murderer. He does it for reasons, and they are beneficial in a lot of ways.
If you side with the Empire, he doesn't care. Like if you're holding a gun or not, like he's gonna take you out because you pro Empire. Like I think that Thrawn is a little bit more rational than that. Like Saul is he's very radical. I wouldn't classify Thrawn as radical. And in that regard, like he will go to whatever end and whatever extent to protect his people, but like even to Saul's right, like he even saw people within the rebellion as like anti. Like he did that whole speech against Mon Mothma. Like Thrawn wouldn't openly say anything negative about any of the Chiss leadership, even if they're vehemently opposed against him. Like that's. You know what I'm saying? Like he's loyal to a fault, if anything. Like it's kind of odd. Like he has this very Sun Tzu approach to warfare and to like how he employs his strategy. Like if he can, like in for Sun Tzu, right? Like he wrote about basically the only way to ensure victory is to have insurmountable odds. Like they have to look at what they're going up against and say, you know what, the only thing we have left to do is surrender. Like, because if we go up against this, we're going to get annihilated. And that's how Thrawn approaches things. Like he wants his adversaries to understand that, like, if you go into war with me, you have no hope of winning. Like, so don't do it. Just like let's put this aside and come to terms with that's a little different. But if you choose to fight, he is going to annihilate you and everyone else that you.
Yeah,
brought in
I would
there.
say he's not a hero, right? He's not a hero
No,
for
he's
sure. That's what separates him from a Luke or Ezra, which is interesting as well. So Ezra and Thrawn were space whaled away, right? The Purgle took them. I think that they've been working together, and I think possibly, and I mentioned before the Katana fleet. We've been presuming that they were taken to Chiss space. What if they were taken out to the middle of nowhere where the Katana fleet is, and they've been using the Katana fleet with the Ascendancy to fight back against the Grisk?
As crazy as that would be, do you really think that the Ahsoka Dave pull that stuff and then make that part of like the Star Wars TV canon?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
I think Dave Filoni of all people would do that. Because it gives him a reason, one, to keep Ahsoka alive and to have her exist out somewhere, and then also explain why she wasn't around in lesser space while all these other things can happen. Because
I don't want to get myself too excited. But
well, that's a good point.
I will agree with you on this. I think for certain they will make his relationship with Ezra more complicated than anyone assumes, and that perhaps they have formed some sort of alliance, but I don't think it'll be as overt as we have this fleet, we're going to fight the Grisk. I think it'll be a lot more vague than that, but I think maybe in theme and general purpose, there will be some of that there. Yeah.
I think by the time we see Thrawn and Ezra, Thrawn will basically be Ezra will be Thrawn's Jedi general. He's going to have the tactical genius mindset of one of Thrawn's pupils, but with his Jedi, he's not going to be a Jedi.
Eli Vanto.
But as an ally or as a Jorah Sabayoth kind of thing, because
as an ally. No, I don't think they'll go the Jorah Sabayoth. I think
I don't either.
Because
think of what Ezra could learn from Thrawn.
That's
my
right.
Ezra would appreciate what Thrawn has to offer, especially if you're taking the version of Thrawn that we read in these novels and pair that dude with Ezra. Ezra, he'll be resistant to it at first, but that's literally during maybe the first year of him and Thrawn being together. But then, once they realize that they're wherever they are, they're completely out of the fray now, and Thrawn's main mission is always going to be the Chiss Ascendancy. And remember, in the last Thrawn book, he got that vague threat that basically the Ascendancy was already, had delved into a civil war. They were in the midst of a civil war. And Arlani was very concerned about the future of the Ascendancy, and Thrawn was also too. His priority is going to go back to, all right, clearly this path with the Empire is over. This is done. The Emperor gave me my last shot, basically, of good grace, and I screwed that up because I got space welled off with you. So now I've got to adjust my strategy so I can get back to my main goal of helping the people. And he has made alliances within the Empire, and I think after the Empire fragments, that 5-year gap is crucial, because I think in those 5 years is where he can, just like in Heir to the Empire, rally the remnant forces that were kind of sort of left on the fringes by the Empire, that weren't included into the First Order. He can grab a lot of those people and say, hey, look, we can still, what you thought you were building in the Empire, I've got something for you. The Ascendancy is also that.
Well, this is why I keep
a well-run version of the Empire.
I keep going back to, but but I keep going back to the Katana fleet for this reason. The Sequel Trilogy, we have connections. We have connective tissue between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. We've got the Aftermath novels, Leia, Princess of Alderaan. There's a lot of content in there. Thrawn's nowhere to be seen. We've got other powers vying for control. We get these other kind of forces coming in to take the remnants of the Empire and carve out their own fiefdoms. And we know what results from the First Order. Where's Thrawn? All right, he doesn't have a bunch of the Empire's resources in gathering them at all.
Well,
However, he could find out about the Katana fleet, zip out to go get that, and then take care of business in the Ascendancy. That explains where he's been during all of this. That explains where he is during the First Order, and where the Chiss are during the First Order. There's a whole nother story going on over in the Ascendancy.
yeah, especially as the First Order starts like bushwhacking through the unknown regions, because we know that a lot of the reason why the Empire was able to survive is because of the hyperspace routes that Thrawn was able to provide to Palpatine. And so to see like the First Order surviving out in the chaos and like how they come into the picture, like between the Ascendancy and everyone else, like that's
Yeah.
kind of cool to implement that, familiar thing from lesser space, stormtroopers, star destroyers into
Because
this.
Ray Sloan and
Ascendancy
her
picture.
Star Destroyer is out.
Yes.
It's out there. Yeah. Like we need to find out what happened to Ray Sloan still. Stuff like that.
And I've
Also,
seen this theory, but I highlight it just because I've seen the theory. I don't think it holds water. It's pretty cool, though. Ezra and Din are brothers. So go ahead, Coop. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, I was just saying Exegol is out there as well. Like, and
Yeah.
Thrawn may have known about that because of the alliance that the Chiss and the Sith Empire had way back when.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, man. Like Exegol was probably
I mean-
part of that relationship. Yeah.
I think the scene with Rey flying Luke's X-wing through the unknown regions, that's the border of lesser space and the chaos. Like, I think that's the literal chaos of space that we have illustrated in these books.
Yeah.
That they have to navigate through on a daily.
And what's crazy, even crazier, to take it back to this. Well, firstly, a point on you were talking about Thrawn and the Katana fleet. I mean, at the end of this book, he says, "I will be gone for 6 months to a year." He does not come back. Like that.
Well, like
he doesn't come back.
19.
Yeah, he does not come back. So, like, something about the Empire, like, he gets caught up in it, I think. I really do think that over that, because that's a long period of time for someone to change. I really do fully believe that character gets caught up in the Empire and, just the dynamics of everything you see in those novels. And that actually does affect him. Like, he may be this character in Thrawn Ascendancy, but I do think Palpatine and Palpatine's regime changes him just a little bit, at least. But what I was going to say is we're almost at 2 hours. We haven't even talked about
Yep.
Thras at all. Like,
We also
Oh.
didn't bring up the
There's-
sister.
well, it's like
Oh
there's
my
so
goodness.
much. There's so much of this book.
All right, so let's try to wrap it up. And
There's
and
nothing
this
you
is
can do.
these are good things. I want to
Yeah.
I want to touch base on it because you're right. Thras and his sister are major elements. And I'll let you lead with his sister. Tell folks about him and his sister, that whole thing.
So, Sherry is a Skywalker. That's who helps the Chiss ships make it through lesser space because they don't have any, like astromechs or anything like that. There's no way to know because everything changes. And so, Thalius used to be a Skywalker and met Thrawn, pretty much has this like big respect and crush on Thrawn. So she finds Thrawn's ship and decides she wants to be the caretaker for the young Skywalker, which they don't usually allow because Skywalkers don't become caretakers. But Thalius did because she wants to work with Thrawn. And in this book, Thalius ends up finding Thrawn's sister, and Thrawn's sister is a big part of Thrawn because she just disappeared when she was like 5, and he got no closure. His best friend, his sister, was just gone. And once he made it far enough through the ranks of the Chiss Ascendancy, he finds out about the Skywalker program and puts together that his sister must have been taken. And so Thalius finds her, but then come to find out they wiped the memories of all the Skywalkers so that they don't want to go back home or they don't miss their parents. So Thrawn's sister has no idea who her family is. She knows who Thrawn is, but she has no interest in meeting him or anything because she just doesn't remember. It's like she's not even his sister anymore. And I would like to see where that goes.
It's a tragic story, and it's one that's fascinating. I agree with you. But Levi, you brought up Thras, and I have some thoughts.
Yeah.
But I'll let you lead. You brought him up. Please give people the TLDR on Thras.
So Thrawn has a biological sister. Thras is Thrawn's adopted brother, essentially. So, yeah, I love Thrass too. So the patriarch of the Myth family, which is like the head of the family, sees that Thrawn is like this brilliant guy, but he's not really good at the politics side. He's really not socially adept. And so he also identifies Thrass, who's like an up and coming, essentially he's like a congressperson. And he pairs them two together on these missions and like puts them together routinely because he sees that together they could just be unstoppable. The politics side, the military side, they could take the Myth family to infinity and beyond. And so they form this relationship. Eventually they become brothers. Like it's really emotional the way that they both discover for themselves that like they have this bond, but then tragically Thrass dies as a result of one of Thrawn's missions that, as I said earlier, is the plot of a previous Legends book, Outbound Flight. And in this book, it sort of feels abrupt. It's like you get this resolution, okay, we're brothers now, and then the next chapter is, okay, I'm dying. Goodbye. And you go, huh? And it's because this other book is what happens in that story.
You really do see a brotherhood, a kinship, a love for one another that they almost don't want to acknowledge. It reminded me of Samwise and Frodo, right? Like they loved each other. And I don't know if it went into like a homosexual kind of romance kind of love.
No, Samwise gets married and has kids and stuff.
Right, no, but I mean Thrass and Thrawn.
Oh, sorry.
Right. I don't know that Thrass and Thrawn actually crossed that bridge because I don't think Thrawn is capable. I don't think that romance.
Think you can figure out how to have a relationship at all.
Yeah, I don't think romance fits in, but I do think it fits really close to the Samwise Gamgee and Frodo, right? Like they loved each other. It was a deep, affectionate love, but it wasn't romantic, right? So I think that that's very close for anybody that may know that those characters from even the movies, right?
I think it's more like brotherly love, cousin love, you know, like not the incestual kind, but the real kind that you just love each other.
That's why I mean. That's why I mean Sam and Frodo, right? Like
yeah.
Coop. I let Gray and Levi address something we skipped. Is there something else that you'd love to add that we kind of skipped over?
Not specifically towards this, but I think I had an earlier point of I think Lucasfilm being kind of miscategorized how they are going to utilize Legends, and I think people who are interested and curious about Legend stuff, you should go and invest some time into picking up some of those Legends novels because they're going to bring them back into the fold in some way, shape, or form. It won't be in the same regard as they are as they were originally presented, but a lot of these themes, concepts, and stories are going to be retrofit into the new canon timeline. It's just a matter of time. Yeah,
I agree. What else did you think of, Levi?
And I just apologies for advance to anyone who hasn't read this book because this is going to go real deep. But the moment in this novel when Arlani goes to interrogate General Yiv is like I thought that was like a standout, man. When I was reading that, I could not put it down. I just thought it was amazing. So of the Nickerdoon Destiny, the villains of the first novel, it's the bad guy from that. In the previous book, they talk about how he's like locked up and he's like deep underground in this crazy prison. And she goes in there and like even he like the way they figure out that he wants to cooperate so he can get off Scylla because he knows how powerful the Grysk are. He's like, I don't care. This villain is like, I don't care anymore. Just put me on a planet. I will go live on a farm like Thanos. I just want to leave. I will do anything to leave this
I got to get out of this place.
Yeah, because I know they're going to be here. And it's like, oh, that's like such a cool way to frame that is this guy and the way like because they're way more calm and cool and collected about it. But the way this villain, this previous like general, is just so. I need to leave. Like it made me afraid of the Grysk. Like it really drove home how terrifying the Grysk can be. Because even this guy,
we are really skipping over some stuff because we haven't even touched on like the mages.
Oh yeah.
Well, Sunrise.
That whole thing.
So here we go. I do want to wrap it up.
Yeah, it's
I do want to wrap it up.
It's like an onion. It's too big.
Like we mentioned, I kind of want to wrap up, letting everybody kind of give your summary and recommendation.
Okay.
it give your overall impression and recommendation. So, and I'll kick it off. Look, the Thrawn trilogies, both of them, the recent canon trilogies. These are canon novels by Timothy Zahn. Paint a picture of Thrawn as a much more complex character than you would see in Rebels. And most people are introduced to Thrawn through Rebels or perhaps through Heir to the Empire. These novels go much deeper. They tie into prequel and original trilogy canon, and they give you a much more holistic view of who Thrawn is as a character. I am absolutely in love with these novels. I'm dying to get more content. As I said before, Disney Plus series, movies, all of it. Give me all of the Chiss Ascendancy. I want more. For me, these novels were fantastic. I enjoyed the time I spent in them. That being said, Lesser Evil is probably my least favorite of the six. It was okay. It kind of got us there, but I think it could have been shorter, more succinct, and it really carries on just as turning the chapter from the previous book. So I would prefer them to have cut that apart a little more, made it distinct, shortened it. But all that being said, I'm absolutely in love with this trilogy, and I look forward to rereading the other trilogy coming out of it. So by order of originally how we introduced everybody, that leaves you next, Gray.
So out of the two canon Thrawn trilogies, I really love the first one, and I enjoyed this one. It's not my favorite. Like I said, I felt Thrawn was a side character. The Lesser Evil was my least favorite of the three, but I wouldn't say not to read them by any means. They're still great books. There's just so much more canon stuff that I'm more into than this trilogy, but I recommend it. I loved it. I prefer the older Thrawn trilogy, and I'm a big fan of all the canon books, so I don't really have much negative to say, except they could have streamlined it a little bit better and made it like maybe 18 hours instead of 24.
There you go.
Oh.
There you go.
Sorry.
One of our mods, if you could get hold of that spam account, that'd be great.
We didn't talk about the covers.
There's so much. Coop, you're up next.
The covers? I don't know about the covers.
So like that's the ring that Ungali gives him, and that's why the Chimera is the way it is. It's the ring it's the symbol on the ring.
That's why he puts it on the underside of his ship.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that this is actually more accurate to the ring.
Yeah, that's what's on the ring.
Yeah. So go ahead, Coop. What's your overall impression of the Thrawn novels? Give us
for me, this trilogy is better than the first Thrawn trilogy in canon, because to me, this is the more accurate characterization of Thrawn that I got in Heir to the Empire. Like, you really get to see his military genius on display, like full force in this. Like, they don't really pull punches. I felt like in the original, in that first Thrawn trilogy, they were trying to fit him into the timeline, and they didn't really give you Thrawn. They introduced you to Thrawn, and it's like, oh, if you like that, then hey, check out these. And then these is when you get like the Thrawn that a lot of the Heir to the Empire fans are gonna love. Like, because I know there's a lot of people who are fans of Heir to the Empire that weren't too high on the newer Thrawn trilogy. I would highly recommend to those people pick up this trilogy if you haven't, because it will not disappoint you. Like, this is the version of Thrawn that you remember from Heir to the Empire, and you're going to love it. And honestly, for me, these three books made me like the first trilogy a lot more, like, because of the context it gave to his character, and why he was the way he was in that in the first trilogy. So that's my overall view. I'm not going to rank these books in order because I love them. I love the story as a whole. It was a really good story for me. So yeah, that's my review. That's my synopsis.
Excellent. Levi.
You know, I had to get the hard.
They're right here on my shelf. I don't know if you can see them. The white, the red, and the black. They're right there.
See, I had mine conveniently located because I knew I was going to do that.
And for those of you in the chat who feel overwhelmed by like this is a lot of books, don't be like too hard on yourself because all of these books came out in the last year. Quite frankly, I don't know how Timothy Zahn wrote all these this fast. Like it's kind of nuts that he pumped out an entire trilogy all during the pandemic. Like this
he
is
probably
all...
just wrote them all at the same time. And
like
then
he must have.
Yeah, I was about to say I have a feeling that he had this written well before.
Yeah, like they must have locked that guy in a closet and just like I don't know how he did that. Anyway. In terms of my enjoyment of them, I think I would caution you as a Star Wars fan if you're more into the fantasy side of things, because this is the sci-fi side of Star Wars. If you want the fantasy side, definitely check out the High Republic. This is like full science fiction, which is what Zahn does. And to something that Coop said, like Zahn had these ideas, like even the first chapter of the first Thrawn novel is like essentially a retelling of his 1996 short story, where Thrawn gets found by the Empire in Legends. And the outbound flight connections here, like bringing in Aralani, stuff like that, it might help to do a little bit of research. But in general, if you're into science fiction, if you're just into sci-fi, because these are just really cool sci-fi novels, you really don't have to know a lot about Star Wars to enjoy this Ascendancy trilogy. And I'm totally with Coop. It makes the first trilogy better. I like this one a little bit more than that one. I give it 2 thumbs up. If you have the time, dense books like an onion, but try and peel the onion, read it. Really good. Good stuff.
Very good. Very good, guys. Look, I thank you all for being here. We've gone 2 hours about Thrawn. I hope that some of our enthusiasm has rubbed off on those watching as well. And I see Meg's giving us a hard time. and I will mention, I know that Thrawn isn't for everybody. I just know that's a fact. Like it doesn't have laser swords and force chokes. It doesn't have that.
Yeah, what I say.
But it's full of fantastic stories. It's a fascinating part of Star Wars that hasn't been largely explored. And I hope that we get much more. And I have been of the opinion that when Rian Johnson said he was working on a trilogy that was in a whole different part of the universe, that maybe he would be doing a.
Don't get me excited like that. Don't get me excited like that, Santa.
A Chiss Ascendancy. Look, you could do it. And Mike Porter, we need to close out with a dad joke. And I used your dad joke for today earlier. So I need your Thrawn dad joke, Mike Porter. Put it in the chat. I will highlight it as you put it in there. And we will close with our Mike Porter Thrawn dad joke. Bring it on. Give it to us. Got to give you a moment to type.
So while he's doing that, I'll say that if you enjoyed the prequels and Clone Wars because of the political side of things and the more military aspect of it, you're absolutely going to love that trilogy because that was
a good way of putting it, because that's one thing I loved about the prequels.
Like, yeah, if you like the politics of it and trying to understand like the inner workings of the Republic and the galaxy as a whole, then you'll enjoy this because that's what you get with the Chiss.
RF Gaming Channel. Does Meg ever get tired of me relentlessly harassing her? Wait. I think you've got it backwards.
I know, right?
I think you've got it backwards, RF Gaming Channel. I think Meg is the one who relentlessly harasses me, Drink Street. Mike Porter, come on. We're waiting for your dad joke, my friend.
He's writing a whole novel. He's writing a Thrawn novel.
Yeah. He's got to find it. I was looking to see if he DM'd it to me. Let me go check Twitter. Maybe he put it on Twitter.
I got a really funny joke.
Go ahead.
What's brown and sticky? A stick. That's my favorite joke. That's my favorite joke.
That's excellent. That is excellent. I do see that Mike Porter had another dad joke, a Star Wars dad joke, but this isn't the Thrawn one.
Might have to do.
Yeah, this is
Oh,
good.
there it is.
This
Hold on,
how-
there it is. There it is. There it is. There it is.
Oh, it's
Oh,
coming.
man.
Okay. Why did they promote Thrawn Naruto? Because they needed Rebellion Thrawn out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And bye, everybody.
Goodbye. Thank you all for being here. I put the links to Certified Gumbo, to All New Nerds, and to Dawn of the Gray in the description here. So you guys please go check out their channels and give them the support. Thank you, my friends. I really appreciate you being here and that we were able to work this out. God bless you so much. Gray. Gray will forgive the live long and prosper. Yeah, we'll forgive that. That's okay.
Maybe I can come back on the stream sometime and y'all can convince me to give the High Republic a second chance.
Oh, I would be happy to do that.
You to give it a second chance. Like,
Another stream.
I really
Another
did,
stream. We can
because
go for another
I
hour.
didn't like the first book. I didn't like the first book, and it's gotten way better.
It has.
Totally.
It has. I think Meg needs to read more of it too. So anyway, we have to close out. We have to go. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate all of your time. And until next time, my friends, ho, 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 Merry Christmas. And may the force be with you always.
Oh
Bye-bye.
my God.